What's going on, guys? Welcome to Own the Chaos.
Start over. I'm sorry. Start over. No. What's up, guys? This is Brad from WeChat HQ. Oh, Own the Chaos.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Own the Chaos. My name is Brad. This is Christian, and this is the Entrepreneur Moment where we're talking about everything on owning a business, how to start one, and today's topic is going to be on failure. What is failure? How it can be defined, and how you can use it to your advantage? Coming up. Okay, guys, so today's topic is going to be on failure. What is failure? Does it really matter? How you can use it to your advantage? And really, is failure actually failure in a business? And kind of what we were talking about earlier, Christian and I, we were really kind of just bringing it up. Like, if a business fails, does that necessarily spell failure for you? Should you be depressed about it? Should it bother you? And I kind of stopped him. We were in the middle of a conversation. I just kind of stopped him because I wanted him to continue going with that idea before we actually forgot about it. So just carried away, like, if my business fails, or if your business fails, what does that necessarily mean?
Yeah, so we looked at the flip side of that is we talked about how to define success, right? Like, so you need to understand how each person, how you as an entrepreneur, like, what is success to you? So then the flip side to that is like, what is failure? Because you hear a lot in business about most businesses fail. And we talk, and so not only do they fail, but like, if you start a business, you're likely to fail. The other thing is that you won't ever get bought. So what does that mean? So when we talk about failure, you and I spoke about like, well, is it really failure? So when you start a business, what you learn from it. So like, you know, my thought is that when you start a business, you could learn how to do finances, you could learn how to do payroll, you can know how to motivate people. The skills you learn in entrepreneurship are most likely gonna be greater, and you're gonna get them quicker than if you just had your 9-to-5 job. So I guess I reframe it a little bit differently. Like, I don't consider, when I talk to my clients, I don't look at a business closing down its doors as failures, because there are some people that are business owners, they close after 2 years and they become a CEO of a company. That doesn't sound like failure to me.
Right. And I think there's just so much that you learn by going through just starting and owning your own business. And I can speak from my own experience, being a young entrepreneur, and not necessarily, I'm not talking about age, but just owning a young business. And just the failures that we've gone through, you're spending money on stuff that you shouldn't have been spending money on, that you thought at the time was valuable, but then it turned out that it wasn't. That in and of itself is a failure, but you learn from that, you know not to do it again, and then you protect yourself and move forward. That's part of, like, you know, the part of keeping the business alive. But if the business does not survive, there's so much that you can still really kind of take away from that and apply to whatever it is that you're doing. And I like that you brought up, you know, if your business fails, you learn so many skills that you could potentially be the CEO of another company. And does that really spell failure? I think you don't even have to go that far. I mean, if you, if I was somebody that were to hire you and I saw that you had a failed business, and I'm looking at somebody who just came out of college, and maybe was a big time manager at whatever company, financial firm, something like that, I'm going to take the person who had a failed business hand over fist because of all the learning experiences that they've gone through, and they know what not to do, what to do. And somebody who maybe just coming out of college, or somebody who just was in a finance manager, whatever, who's had nothing but success, doesn't understand the value of that failure. And I think that really just puts more weight on it for me as a business owner to really, like, I don't know, understand what it is to really go through those trials and tribulations. And it's so impactful.
Well, this, not to get too personal on sort of like the philosophical idea of this, but most people don't know this, but I'm a professor at a local college, and even though I am a part of the institution, I'm not a big fan of the way that sort of higher ed works, right? The way higher ed works is that you're discouraged to fail. You're supposed to move towards your strengths. You're supposed to move towards what you're good at. But what we know fundamentally is that from the moment you're born, the growth comes from failing, right? You're trying to speak, you're trying to walk, you're trying to do all these things, and at some point, you get into to education, and if you get one bad grade, that hurts you. Like that could prevent you from going to the right college or from getting the right job.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to really go down that road, but the point is that as a society, I think that we've steered away towards failure, which my opinion is we should attack failure. Like, so what's better? If you're somebody who's a 96% at something, and so you're an A student, and then you just bust your hump and you get to 98%. Is that better than if you're at 69% and you get to 80%? I would argue that that's better. Like, you've shown more growth.
Yeah.
And so, you know, like anything we do, it requires failure as far as when we've seen the greatest growth. When you think about it in your life, and I'm a sports background, I played basketball. Like, I didn't start by shooting 10 for 10 from the free throw line. Right. I went 0 for 10 or 1 for 10. And then I just tried to get incrementally better throughout. And so then I was 4 to 6 to 8, and maybe I'll be 9 out of 10 some days. Yeah. And so for me, growth comes through failure. Growth doesn't as much come through success.
Yeah, that's really powerful. You know, and I think that people get so caught up in the end game, you know, of just like what is success, and you know, and we kind of touched on that in the last video, and we're talking about failure, but they tie into each other. You know, if you had a failure at whatever it was, and then, you know, you learn from that and turned it into a success, it's kind of what we were talking about, like, is that really a failure? And I think ultimately what happens is it's how you pick yourself up from that failure and turn it into a success is really kind of what it's all about. And really just that's the journey of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, as entrepreneurs, you have to do this, I have to do this, whoever's watching has to do this. Like, you have to get used to failing. And I think that's the biggest challenge. That's why people don't make the leap. That's what, you know, it's when you really get down to it, what is it about? Like, what are you afraid of? Why are you not making that leap? And I would venture to guess more often than not, it's what the perception is, right? Like, what are people gonna think outside when, you know, I've never told you this, but how I define success is, am I further along than whenever I look back, whatever that time frame is? So am I further along last year, this time, last month? I just care about putting one foot in front of the other. So I fail along the way. That's all entrepreneurship is a series of failures that you learn from and you make it better.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I alluded to last time, was just the journey. You know, successful businesses is all just about the journey. What's next? And if this didn't work out, okay, fine. We're still afloat. Let's just go attack the next thing.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I mean, I can't say that enough, that it's really just the journey itself. And I don't want anybody to get discouraged by just being small either. Embrace the small stuff and really dig through, you know, the struggle. Embrace that struggle, because all that's going to do is just prepare you for what's coming. And, you know, if you dived into something, let's just say you're in a business, you start something and you blow right up, you're going to be scared out of your mind if you blow. I mean, you're not going to be prepared for everything that's coming. You'd much rather, and trust me, like, I wanted to be huge right from the start. I wanted to be, you know, right into it, making $1 million right out of the gate. And it was tough for me to try to really kind of get my head wrapped around the fact that it's okay for slow growth as long as it's growth. And then if it's not, just try to figure out what's going on, which is why we brought you on in the beginning. Anyway, but, you know, just embracing starting small and knowing that you're going to be making long-term decisions now for a long-term result later.
Here's what I'll say. I'm just big into the psychological idea of things. Like, I think there's less value in entrepreneurship on talent and more value on mindset. Like, most people think it's like skill or something, that somebody has some sort of talent. I don't think it matters. I think there's a million ideas. I think it really boils down to your mindset, your willingness to handle adversity, and how you respond to adversity. And because there is no business that I've ever come across that has seen just success. And so then it's, well, how do we respond to failure? Do we sit there? Do we sulk? Or it's that whole idea of like, you never want to get too low and you never want to get too high, because the flip side of that is you don't want to have a bunch of success and be feeling yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's something that, it's the psychology of it, and can you overcome quote unquote failures, and how do you view them? Because where I see people getting challenged is it just slows them down. And rather than, okay, I knew failures were gonna come, how do I respond, and what do I need to do, and how do I keep this momentum going? Because once you slow down, that's when you ultimately lose.
Yeah, so just keep going. And that's kind of like really what it comes down to, and ultimately too is just your purpose. Just understanding your purpose, and I think that'll be a topic for another day. But just to tack onto that real quick is just, there's plenty of grocery stores out there. I love to use Whole Foods as an example. Whole Foods is really expensive, right? To buy their food, it's really expensive. But people buy their food because of the purpose that they carry out, which is like wholly organic foods and that sort of thing. And we talked about it just a short while ago, was like the Tom's shoes. If you guys remember Tom's shoes, for every pair of shoes you bought, they donated a pair of shoes, and those shoes were really not all that great. They were kind of trash, but people bought the crap out of them because of the purpose that they provided. And so, as long as you know that you have purpose, and like we alluded to last week with, the why, getting that down, don't be afraid of failure. Embrace the failure, embrace the small stuff, embrace the struggles, and you'll come out better for it. Even if your business fails, you're gonna learn something from it, and carry it throughout your entire life. If We Trade HQ failed tomorrow, I would be super bummed. But I would take that as a learning experience to apply it to whatever it is that I was doing throughout the rest of my life. I know that I could go into another business after this one, if this one failed, and really just make a strong and a huge impact in whatever business that I got into because of everything that I've learned up to this point. And so that's kind of like the key takeaway. So is failure really failure? I don't think it is, as long as you have the right attitude and respond to it with that attitude, and really kind of use that as a learning experience and use that to keep pushing yourself forward.
That's good.
Well, I guess that's it for Christian too. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you like this, we want to hear some more from you in the comments as well. Please give us your thoughts and insights. Again, this is the second week that we're doing this, and so it's more or less a pilot. If you guys like this, if you guys hate it, let us know. How have you responded to failure? Is it something that you have been able to overcome, or is it something that you struggle with? And maybe it's something that we can bring to the community to help you with that struggle. And if you're a fellow entrepreneur, you're watching this, and you want to give your 2 cents, you want to maybe be a part of what we're doing here, please reach out to me. Go into the About section of my YouTube channel. All my contact information is there as well. And that is it, guys. Christian, you got anything else? That's it for me. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please subscribe if you want to see some more awesome content such as this, and give it a like if you don't believe in true failure. Thank you guys so much again for tuning in. I'll see you next week.